All right, everybody, welcome back to the locally owned podcast. I'm Chris Darcy, and today I'm joined by the owner of the California Coffee Republic, Mr. Will. Thank you for being here.
Thanks very much for having me.
Of course. So I kind of want to just get right into it and ask you, when did you guys first open up your location?
Sure. September 11th, in the middle of a pandemic. That wasn't the way we planned it, but not a lot of people planned for that.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so you open up middle of pandemic.
Yeah.
Why was that your time?
So maybe backtracking a little bit. I've been roasting coffee for about 11 years or so, and just kind of on the side as a side hustle. And Chris Integrin found our website. I was just selling bags like this to local customers and online, and his wife actually saw our website. Was like, "Hey, do you guys have a brick and mortar place?" And we're like, "No." And he's like, "Well, you want to talk about maybe having one?" I'm like, well, it's Chris Integrin, so maybe we should go talk. So we went down there and had a beer, and he kind of laid it out that it would be cool, this organic development where there was a winery and a brewery and other things kind of coming, that wouldn't it be cool to have a coffee shop across the way? And I was like, well, certainly the demographics of the customers really overlap.
Yeah.
So it'd be really cool. But we hadn't really thought about opening our place until then.
Got it.
Yeah.
So what initially got you into brewing coffee in the first place then?
Sure. So, when I was really young, my grandmother kind of like would take instant coffee and put it in milk and give me a bunch of sugar, and that's all I knew about coffee. And then certainly my dad drank a ton of coffee like growing up. And one Father's Day, because of how much coffee my dad consumes, I decided, you know what, I'm going to buy him a roaster, and I'm going to show him how we can roast his coffee. And so I bought him this little tabletop roaster, maybe $200, and bought some nice beans, what I thought were nice beans at the time, and kind of roasted them for him. Sure enough, it was like way better than anything we could buy. And after a lot of trial and error, of course, like we burnt a fair few pounds of coffee, but we kept going kind of down the rabbit hole. And my dad really wasn't interested in roasting his own. What I found is like he really enjoyed drinking coffee, but he didn't really like want to spend the extra time. So I started to spiral down that path of, wow, this is really there's a lot more to coffee than just. Sorry. No worries. There's a lot more to coffee than just like, hey, here's local Starbucks or what have you, or here's Folgers.
Yeah.
For that matter.
So your dad drinking a bunch of coffee kind of initially got you inspired, but before you went and took the leap to open your own brick and mortar shop, what were you doing before that?
Yeah. Well, having gotten him a roaster and then him not using it, I got myself a roaster. Mm-hmm. And then I started to explore the space a little bit, if you will, and buy nicer coffee beans. And, just like with wine, if you get a great grape, and maybe you don't screw it up, maybe you have a chance at making something great in wine. Similarly with coffee. So I went to find higher quality green coffee beans, and get them from all over. Get them from Ethiopia, get them from different regions within the world, and really started to explore the taste that coffee could have. And it kind of spiraled from there. It was like friends and family were really digging it. And, when my wife and I would travel, we'd always go to a local coffee shop and try their coffee. And, not to toot my own horn or anything, but like we would try some coffees and like, I think ours is better than this.
Yeah.
And friends and family kept saying that. And I was like, they're saying that.
Yeah.
But when more and more people said it, it was like, maybe you should sell this. I was like, maybe we should try. 2017, I sat my wife down, Jen, and I said, what do you think? And I had laid all the numbers out. What do you think if we just sold bags of coffee to local customers? It wouldn't be too much of a risk. Let's just give it a shot. And she thought that wasn't that crazy of an idea. And
then obviously you open up, like you said, during COVID time.
Right.
What kind of challenges did that present for you?
Well, one benefit of being in the alley right now with Integrin having been there, we're right across from them, and at the time, actually backing up just a sec, I couldn't afford to rent out the whole space. I was trying to look for ways of kind of reducing my risk. And Chris understood that. And he connected us with this guy who owns a restaurant up in Solvang, who was going to rent most of the space, but didn't need it all.
Yeah.
And so it was a way that I could just rent 500 square feet instead of the whole 1,400 square feet, reduce my total outlay, my rent's a lot less expensive. And so I figured, okay, well, we're reducing our risks. We're doing the best thing we can, and let's see if it works.
Yeah.
At the time we were open in COVID, but COVID still had the protocols of you could be open for outdoor dining, and the alley is just set up for outdoor dining, right? There's tables and benches out there, and customers that go and grab a beer, like when they're done with their beer, or maybe they have a designated driver, they come over and grab a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Or maybe they grab a coffee to sober up, after a few beers.
Yeah.
So it really worked at the time, even though we were in the middle of a pandemic. There's still this opportunity for a very small out-of-pocket cost. You can go and experience the outdoor space, some great products, see some people, not feel like you're locked in your own house the whole time. So it worked. Since things have shut down a little bit tighter, it's been a lot harder. But I'm optimistic about the future for sure.
Perfect. And as you should be, because you make great coffee.
I appreciate that.
But you said Chris Enegren kind of pushed you towards getting a physical location.
Yeah.
Was there any doubt in your mind that you were going to open Moorpark, or did you explore other cities as well?
When Chris reached out to us initially, we weren't really thinking about opening a location at all, to be honest. Like I had a corporate job of 18 years at the time. But it sounded like I've always been a guy about the journey, not about the destination. And it sounded like a nice change and a good challenge. And so it was like, well, if the risk is low, we should try it. Because if it's going to work at all, it's going to work in an environment where our costs are low and where there's people already in that general environment of, hey, beer really overlaps, like I said, with coffee lovers, with wine lovers. And so if it's going to work, it's going to work here. Mm-hmm. So why not give it a shot?
Yeah. So was that, scary for you? Did you leave your job right away, or how did you jump into opening your business?
So initially I thought, okay, everything's moving relatively smoothly, maybe a little slower than we'd want it to. We met Aaron, the owner of the Fire and Vice, the restaurant that we were subleasing with. We met him in February of 2019. And it took us, almost 18 months to open up our shop. And then, COVID happens in the middle of that. Sorry, what was the question again?
Was it scary for you to leave your job of 18 years?
So initially I was going to work my day job. And so the idea was I would go early in the morning, open the cafe, and then go to my day job. And my wife would work the rest of the day, and then I would come and relieve her in the afternoon. That was the plan. COVID happens. I get furloughed in March, and then in July I get laid off.
Wow. Right
before September's opening.
So it kind of just lined up perfectly for you. You just decided, hey, I'm going all in.
It was almost like a destiny kind of thing, Like,
that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So you opened the physical location. Did you have any type of business background as far as the materials you need, marketing, everything like that?
Well, from a marketing perspective, I spent 15, almost 18 years in digital marketing, digital analytics.
Okay.
Working for JD Power and a few other companies. And that really did give me confidence that if I spent some time, doing it myself, doing some things that I knew about enough, that I could do some of those things without spending money.
Yeah.
From a business perspective, we certainly had never owned our own business, so that was a bit scary. But I think what's incredible about the alley is the amount of collaboration. So Chris Enegren's like an open book. He can help. He can share some, horror stories. He can share some successes, obviously, after 10 years. And, the partner that we're in with Fire and Vice, he's been so transparent and so helpful. Can't thank him enough. Like we feel like, when something happens, somebody's seen it before and we feel like we can walk through it together.
Yeah, that's super nice to have somebody that can kind of reassure you during negative times or harder trying times at least.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
So let's talk about your coffee then.
Sure.
Where do you get your beans? Where are they sourced from?
Yeah. So one thing that's really important, especially in specialty coffee, if you think about wine graded on a 100-point scale, specialty coffee is everything 80 points and above. And so that's where we sit. We sit with specialty coffee, green beans, directly traded. Our importer has direct relationships with farmers all across the globe. We found that to be incredibly important to us when we're thinking about where we're going to source coffee from, because coffee can be really shady in how it's sourced and the way people are treated and the way people are really extorted kind of for some great things. So it's really important to us to get direct trade coffee. We get ours from a source who has direct trade relationships. Bodie Leaf Coffee Traders down in Orange County. He started within Sumatra coffees in Indonesia, and then kind of branched out from there. We get coffees from all over the globe directly from him. So we have Sumatra coffees, we have African coffees, we have Central American, South American coffees. So kind of from all over the globe. And my intention at the beginning was to give people the same experience that I had when I was exploring, but do so in a way that people can afford to do so. And I feel like also when you walk into a specialty shop today, it can be very intimidating as a customer for the first time when you walk in and they know way more than you do. And sometimes they're almost making it known that they know way more than you do. And that pretentious attitude is something I want to debunk and I don't want present in my shop. And so there's a lot of things about exploring coffee that I want to share with somebody for the first time I get excited about. And I want, new customers to be excited about that too.
So you keep saying specialty coffee shop. Can you explain? Because personally, I don't know. What is that?
Sure. So we'll talk about maybe like first wave coffee, second wave coffee, third wave coffee. First wave coffee is, Folgers, instant coffee, basically cans of already pre-ground coffee. It's all commodity grade. So it's all the cheapest coffee you can find, ground. And then that's how our parents all experienced coffee for the first time. And then second wave coffee is like Starbucks, essentially taking something that was European and giving that to customers in America for the first time when all they knew was U-Ban or something like that, right? Folgers. And then third wave coffee is exploring that next level of quality. And so it was paying attention to the details of how you roast the coffee, how you brew the coffee, the time, the temperature, the pressure, maybe, depending on the brewing method. And so specialty coffee is all about that next level, that 80 points to 100 points in terms of the quality.
And how do you come about different flavors and different brews then? Is it literally just location based, or is it how you grow the beans?
So there's literally countless varietals of coffee. You have two main species. You have Robusta and you have Arabica. Most of specialty coffee you're going to get today is Arabica. But within Arabica, there are countless varietals of coffee. And those varietals, just like with wine, they change, their flavor profile changes based on where they're grown. So the dirt that they were grown in, the altitude they were grown in, the amount of rain or lack thereof, how they were processed. So there's a lot of variation in the way that the coffee can taste just from where they're grown or how they're grown.
Yeah. So for your shop then specifically, do you guys have a certain one that you prefer to serve or that you specialize in?
Sure. So we roast all of our coffees medium roast. The reason why we do that is because it enhances the coffee's natural flavor profile. And if we roast too dark, like say some of the big shops, you lose some of those nuances that you would have had from origin, and it starts to just taste like dark roasted coffee.
Got it.
And so we try to enhance the natural flavor profile of every coffee.
Okay. So since you're so specialized with the coffees that you guys are serving, walk me through how does cream, sugar, all of that affect it? And do you kind of not like when people do that?
That's a great question. So, given my two premises I mentioned earlier, right? Number one, I want to give somebody the opportunity to explore coffee the way they haven't before. And I want to make a non-pretentious, experience. I personally think that there's so much flavor in coffee naturally that you don't really need to add anything to it. But it took me a long time personally to get there.
Yeah.
And so just the same, I feel like customers should have coffee the way they like it. But I encourage a customer every now and again, if they're willing to explore, dialing back a little cream, dialing back a little sugar, what have you, because there is so much to enjoy about the coffee naturally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. And then moving from coffee to your bakery, whose idea was the famous scones that you guys are serving?
Oh my God.
These things went viral, man.
Seriously.
On Facebook.
So when I met my wife, I was going to Davis. She was going to Texas A&M, and met her at my buddy's graduation. He was a really good friend of hers. And we started dating long distance. She sent me a tin full of baked goods. And they were out of this world. And I was like, I got to marry this woman. So she's always been an excellent baker.
Yeah.
She never really wanted to get into a bakery as a job situation. Enter Chris Sanagrin again. He walks over and says like, hey, you should taste Aunt Pat's scones. These things are awesome. And they were awesome. Aunt Pat has this great recipe for chocolate chip scones. So good.
Yeah.
And so they brought the scones over. They brought everything over to, the instructions how to make it and everything. And so Jen makes the Aunt Pat scones. And they were selling like hotcakes. And then my wife, Jen, who's a great baker in her own right, it was like just the nudge she needed. And she just started to
took off with it,
take off and make new flavors and just,
yeah,
do her thing. So
that's awesome. Yeah. I mean, so you guys have the scones. Is there any plans of expanding that?
For sure.
What do you guys?
So right now we know we want to do, like a breakfast, something savory. But we're trying to stick to the same level of quality that I know that she wants, that we want as a business. And then also we want to kind of keep it local, and that's tough when you talk about maybe doing, I don't know, an egg sandwich or something, or doing something, you start to sacrifice either quality or time or from where it's from.
Yeah.
So we're still kind of going through that process of evaluating different options to add to the menu, but definitely want to expand the food menu.
And I love that you want to keep it local, because I mean, obviously that's what the whole premise of this podcast is about, supporting local businesses.
Yeah.
I really like that you guys have that big chalkboard in your shop.
Yeah.
Just an idea that I had.
Sure.
Hear me out.
Yeah.
I think it would be kind of awesome if you guys had local artists come in, maybe draw some murals, switch it out every couple weeks. I love that idea.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, it can kind of become an attraction.
For sure.
Hey, this artist drew this up here. Come check it out. Come
check
grab coffee. Check out the shops.
I love that idea.
Any plans? I mean, maybe
so
explore that.
So we, so one of the ideas I already had was, I guess spoiler alert for those that are going to watch this, was, I feel like the teachers in this community are going through a lot, like we all are.
Definitely.
Right now. And I feel like, teacher appreciation, there should be entire months of it. And I think that when we get to that time of the year where we do have those teacher appreciation days, we're going to have kids come in when they can.
Yeah.
And write on the chalkboard a note to their teacher.
Oh, that's awesome.
And, coffee will be free for that teacher when they walk in.
That's so cool. Yeah.
It's important that, we maintain the community vibe, because I feel like the whole organic nature with which the alley got started, that's a thing, and we got to keep it going. We got to keep it such positive momentum, and especially in a time where, everyone's kind of bumming a bit.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's pretty awesome.
It is. So hear that, guys. Will supports local teachers.
For sure.
All right. So where can your products be purchased right now? Is it all in shop? Are you online, distributed at all?
Sure. So, as I said, we started our website, CaliforniaCoffeeRepublic.com, to sell bags of freshly roasted specialty coffee, from here to, upstate New York. I've been shipping coffee for 3 years now.
Oh, wow.
So we still have that. And then we have the in-store ability to purchase drinks and whatnot. And right now I'm working on our online curbside pickup system, and hopefully be rolling that out in a few weeks. What's nice about the alley, as you've been there, is there's a couple of buildings, and when you drive in off of Flynn, you can kind of drive around almost like a horseshoe, and then you get let out right back there in the cul-de-sac, and then you head back out towards the light on Spring.
Yeah.
And so it'd be a really great drive-through opportunity.
That's a good idea.
And so everybody's on board in the alley. They're all supportive of the idea. And so we're just kind of working on the details to get that accomplished.
That's really smart, actually. I like that a lot.
Yeah, thanks.
So as far as distribution goes, then, are you looking to get into any stores anytime soon? Is that like something you have on the horizon?
For sure. Near term, as I mentioned, our partner Fire and Vice, he's opening a new location in Santa Maria, which has a drive-through. He's going to have coffee there, our coffee. And so we're going to be shipping a lot of coffee up to him to provide for that store. As that kind of gets to be more of a well-oiled machine, then I'm going to start exploring, hey, can we go to some of the local markets, get our bags on shelves, that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's really smart. And then as far as expansion goes, is this something you want to, I wouldn't say make it a chain, but open up other physical locations as well?
So I think it's a great question. It's something I've considered, but as I've done this more and more, and as I mentioned, like, this is really organic to me. Like, I'm kind of along for the ride, just as everybody else is. And I'm feeling like being a roaster is something I really enjoy. And so getting coffee to other cafes, and getting coffee on shelves in local markets and stuff feels like the next logical step for me. We've talked about, my wife and I have talked about, like, maybe if something does end up working out on High Street, where that new development that they're talking about, it would be a cool place to maybe have a pop-up or some kind of presence there as well.
Definitely.
Because I really love the area. I love that idea.
Yeah.
I think Moorpark has so much going for it, and I think to build some momentum would be great to be a part of.
Definitely would be. I mean, that High Street project is going to be next level once it happens.
Yeah.
I mean, that'd be awesome if you guys
Really
are there
cool.
as well. So as far as this year, I know it's been tough with the pandemic, but just to kind of leave this off on a higher note, what's one thing that you've been grateful for the community or just business partners in general?
Without a doubt, it's the amount of collaboration and support from everybody within the alley, all the businesses being so supportive about how do we get something done, whether it be how do we help you open, to, just the other day, like we had a leak in one of our drains, and we've only been open 4 months, and I'm walking out to Chris to say, hey, do you have a tool? Because he's always got a bunch of tools around. He's like, why? What's going on? And I was like, well, we got this leak. Before you know it, Chris is underneath my pipes on his back, right? The owner of the brewery, mechanical engineer, he's fixing it.
He does it all.
It just, I mean, I don't have that kind of talent, but the amount of support that all the business have for each other is amazing. And then I can't say enough about the customers. Like, the customers in Moorpark, the Moorpark people have been so supportive, especially when we shut back down. I mean, the amount of things that they've done to touch our family has been incredible.
Yeah, we're very prideful here in supporting our local businesses, our local people, as you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's awesome the way we do that.
Yeah.
So to leave this off again, what's your top 3 coffee flavors that everyone needs to try?
Sure. So I have the Columbia here. This is the Don Edgar. It's kind of chocolate fudge, maybe a little bit of brown sugar, maybe a little melon. Really good, full flavored, full bodied coffee, as a classic Colombian would be. I love African coffees. It's hard to knock an Ethiopian. I love our Ethiopian from the Guji region. It's very fruity, fruit forward. That's a natural coffee. We also have a coffee from Costa Rica. It's a really amazing coffee. Basically a varietal of coffee bean that was basically taken from Kenya, planted in Costa Rica. They harvest it, and then they honey process it. So they actually drizzle honey over the cherries, and they let that ferment a bit before they wash it off and dry it out like a normal coffee, and then they ship it to us.
Yeah.
And then we get to roast that. So it's got this inherent sweetness to it. It's really incredible coffee.
I'm just sitting here like mind blown. I didn't know there was so much that went into coffee.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, all right. I think that's a good place to end it. Thank you so much, Will, for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thank you, guys.